Hi, everybody. Nephew of Scrum for Friday, June 2nd. Okay, I haven't had a chance yet. I've been in meetings. It's only 9 a.m., but I've already been in meetings and driving, so I haven't had a chance to actually look at what's going on. I know it looked like a bunch of things merged that were open, so I haven't. I think we need to try the end-to-end, but I guess let's just pull up the board and see where we are. And please, people, interrupt me if I don't want to, if I'm not, if there's things that need to be said. All right. Share my screen. Okay. This one. Okay. So I had to drop yesterday, but it looked like maybe people stayed on and went through these to-dos because they went down from quite a few more to just 6. So I don't know if they moved here or went away. What's that about?
John. Yeah, that's right, John. We did that. Sorry, I just joined late now. So we went through the list. So a few things. Okay, I did. I did move few things to the in progress, even though they are not, just to make sure that we can just focus on that particular column from now on.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. Let's go through that. Epic. Are the things from the Epic in here? So maybe we should just skip the epics and go through.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So the Watcher agent code yesterday, Tal gave an update on that. Sorry, I'm going to split my Zoom window off separately so I can see who's here. I was just in a meeting with Tal, but I don't know if he's made it out of that meeting yet. Let's see. Yeah,
I just joined here.
Okay, awesome. So we're here, refactor the Watcher agent code. Any updates here or?
No update.
Okay. And then Stephen is here. I think the discussion yesterday was, well, I guess we'll get to the other items and then we'll talk to Stephen about it. All right. Wim, what's this one?
Is this cluster context or no? I'll we will discuss after this session. Yeah, after this meeting we'll connect on this one.
Okay. This last I saw, do we have anybody from the UI team? This was actually, there was a PR out for this. I'll have to follow up and see. I know that Chris Fry made some comments. I think there were changes done since then, so that might be ready. I'll have to follow up and check on what's happening with that. I think you were working on this.
PR created.
Okay, it's in the, I'll just tag it here so we have it. It's in what, Free 5 DC?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, just got up.
Don't packages is 35GC.
Oh, I could pick the wrong one. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's this one.
Yep.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, too many tabs. That's it. No. There we go. Okay, so awesome. So folks, please review that today. Let's try and get that
I think Dennis already reviewed and add some comment. I'm trying to look for them now.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Dennis, I think you weren't, is he here today? Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So I just linked to your Slack message yesterday. So we weren't sure, was this done, did you install it using the kept package, all the non, are we, I guess maybe the better question is, what's the scope of this with respect to deploying all the control plane functions that aren't part of the operator and deploying the functions that are part of the operator? Can you explain what the scope of this is and what the state is?
Yeah,
Does it-
sure. So today I installed Nifio, right? So management and one edge cluster or workload cluster, and I push all 3.5GC non-operator functions using Nifio, right? So like repositories, right? Proposal, approval, and they are there. So and
The
then
one non-operator ones you said?
yes. Well, the ones which are out of scope of R1 from 3.5GC from workload. So
that free, I think it's called like free 5GC
CP,
package.
yes, yeah,
And those are running properly?
yeah.
Okay.
The only thing is that like again that namespace thing it pops up and like every time, right? Because the way how it works, every function it starts and it registers its own service to NRF, like web service part of the
Okay.
like that's CP, and then whoever needs that function, it goes to NRF and asks where is, let's say, UDR.
Okay.
And it's like NRF returns that service name. And then basically, because we are returning like it without svc.cluster.local, it's not reachable outside of namespace.
Okay. Service name without the namespace.
So is there any
Yes.
way to register the entire URL to NRF? Is that something we have to do, or is it something we can do manually or automated?
I
This
think
is
we've
what-
just used a shortcut, but we could. We absolutely could. Yeah, it just accepts it can
Well,
be
we
an
can
IP address too, right? But we prefer to
Yes,
use DNS for discovery.
Well, but IP address is not known, right? It's
Right,
known only
exactly.
once.
Well, if you do, yeah, if you register by, you don't need to do the whole cluster local. You just need to do service name dot namespace dot svc. And I mean, not that
Yes.
we're always cluster.local right now anyway, but theoretically people can deploy a different FQDN and then it all breaks if you include FQDN.
Yeah.
So-
Well, that namespace part, it has to be configurable, right? Then we can like.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I mentioned this before. It is configurable in Kubernetes. We don't do it, but when you create a service, by default, the DNS name, the domain name gets constructed for you right from the namespace, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can create your own pattern for doing this.
That's not,
Yeah.
no, you can't. There's a single DNS schema there's an external, so there's, unless you install a separate DNS provider, there's a standard DNS schema. It's going to follow that.
You can configure the DNS search, right? So you can give it, for example, there's actually a lot of options there, but I think we're going
Per
down.
pod basis. Yeah, I don't think we need to do
Yeah.
it. I think the registration is probably, perhaps can register services with.
It is per service. I'm very sure. I was reading the documentation the other day, but in any case, I don't think we need to go down that rabbit hole for this particular implementation.
Yeah. So like, and when I started them, then I had to put SMF and IMF in the same namespace.
Right.
Like from operator perspective. So I just tweaked like configuration of SMF and IMF. And then I started UPF in whatever namespace because it doesn't rely on the same mechanism.
Yeah,
And-
UPF doesn't register with NRF. I think
Exactly,
your
yes.
biggest problem is actually NRF is not giving you the full name.
Yeah, exactly. And then I used run sim Helm chart because it's not part of the packages, KPT packages yet. So I just used plain Helm chart. I started it and it works, right? So I have a session with this setup. I can show it if needed.
But so Dennis, that means that actually the AMF and the SMF that we schedule independently have to be put in that same namespace.
Yes. Yes.
As well as on the same cluster.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the time being, yes.
For the time being, yeah. I think we should look into that. I think there's ways we can fix.
Yeah,
that.
sure. But yeah, I think that,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm going to put that. So there is actually a cap package for the UE ransom. There should be in the Nephew example packages. I think it's not in it might be in a different repo. So you could try that one.
Yes.
But
Yes,
these are
yeah.
all like.
Yeah, if you
They're
can
not-
point me to that package, then I will add it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the example packages, Dennis.
Okay.
This is a repo called example packages. Yeah.
And then I'm going to like take it from there and push it into Nephew packages like in 35GC folder.
Yeah, and looking at this, probably we should have taken John's example of John's suggestion of pushing it in the same repo. we overthought and
We
pushed it
kind
into-
of we haven't figured out the best way to structure our package schemas.
Also, yeah.
Yeah.
What I would prefer to split, let's say, every function into its own folder, because like right now there are like 6 or 7 of them, right? So and I have to, and there is also IMF and SMF. When I propose them, I have to delete IMF and SMF manifests in order to deploy. So
You're saying you
like,
want them as separate packages.
yes, yeah.
And there's ways to compose. Okay, we were going too into detail, but maybe let's have a discussion about that offline. So you were able to make the call though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
So just one question. So so when you're able to do the end-to-end signaling, then why is the problem with the NRF, Dennis? Is this because you're using the kept packages, or is it with the operator? You're doing kind of hybrid thing, some with Helm, some with Nephew?
No, that's
Well,
because of the namespace, Ravi.
It's just he has to in order to get it to work, he has to put them all in the same namespace, which is not really
And the DNS, because it doesn't return the full FQDN, it seems that it gets.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is that he was able to do the call. That means everything, all signaling is working. So I'm just trying, what setup is that NRF not getting resolved?
Well, if
Because
I
for the call to go through,
let's say you remember there is a directive inside configuration target IPv4 or something like this, and it contains a service name. When function starts, it takes that name, the directive target IPv4, and it says register itself to NRF. It says I am UDR and I'm reachable through this.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is that you already were able to attach UE, PDU sessions. All that only works after all the registration happens. So
Yes,
I'm just saying So I'm just saying, why was it that this did not work? Because you already had the call go through.
Well, it was like before I used Helm charts in order to start functions. Now,
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So this is basically, got it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So using some kind of hybrid thing. You're using some Nephew, some Helm or something.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So once
all the
have...
all the SBI is consumer producer. So you need to have in the same namespace. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the containers as an init container, that resolves the weight. There's a weight NRF thing. So you have to cross that step too. Anyway.
So the next step, once we have IMF, UPF, and SMF kept KPT packages, or like, the way to hydrate them and start from Nephew, then, well, kind of I will consider this a particular exercise done. But yeah, we can discuss it.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you all. All right, on the next one, Joshi, I assume this is the PR you're talking about. If you're here, sorry, I don't see you on the list. Okay.
I don't think Ronek's here.
Ronek, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, Ronek. Yeah, Ronek.
Okay. We should. This one. Are we ready to do this?
If somebody can define scale out, so like
changing capacity content.
Yeah, that is possible. So if you push updated configuration, this capacity more than, let's say, 3 gigabit or 5 gigabits per second downlink, then it's going to start another port with more CPU and memory allocated. That is possible.
So this already works, you're saying? Is it this? But this probably needs this pull request here. Or no, that's SMF. Okay.
For UPF, it works already. But it's very simple,
Okay.
right? I'm looking
yeah.
only on downlinks throughput, and if it exceeds some kind of number, then it gives more resources. It's just an example how it can be used.
Okay, so then what I would say is this: done manual testing is done. This works. Now we need to add an E2E test to demonstrate this.
This is scaling out by creating another UPF instance.
This is scaling. It says in here test the config change scale. So let's change this to test. I'm going to call that vertical scale.
Scale up or scale out?
Vertical scaling of UPF, not vertical scaling
Scale
of
up.
pod. So it's a little bit confusing. Test scaling UPF instance by scaling by horizontally scaling deployment internally across clusters. It's a long name, but that's what we're trying to say here, as opposed to horizontally scaling the
Horizontally means multiple pods, right?
Well, horizontally on an individual instance means multiple pods, but you can say scale the UPF service itself. I don't know if that's the right word, service, but the UPF fabric itself by adding more UPFs horizontally across clusters. So there's sort of two.
Well, we are not doing.
Okay. And this is within an individual UPF instance, scale it horizontally by adding pods, as opposed to adding more UPFs.
John, we are not doing that. Huh? We are not adding pods here. We are basically what we are doing is
we are deploying new.
Yeah, if you're putting more UPFs, it affects SMF configurations, and then you need topology.
We have both, Wim. We have both. This particular one is the operator scales an individual UPF instance by adding pods to the replicas to the deployment. That's my understanding. Is that incorrect?
It is incorrect.
That's incorrect.
That also has effect on every other configurations. Because if you're creating another UPF pod, it creates other secondary interfaces. We have to register those interfaces into SMF.
Okay, so what is this doing, Dennis? Is it's vertically scaling a pod? It's like replacing the pod with a new higher capacity pod?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like CPU memory change of a pod.
Okay.
So basically this is not horizontal scaling at all. I was thinking exactly like what John was saying. I was thinking exactly what John was saying. So basically this is replacing an existing pod.
Yes. It's redeploying an existing pod with different higher capacity. Basically. That's what we are.
Yeah. So there's okay. So this does it. Okay. So just to be like, to give the bigger picture. So there's a feature within Kubernetes called vertical pod scaling, vertical pod autoscaler, that based on certain measurements will vertically scale a pod. Here, what we're doing is we're vertically scaling a pod, not based upon after the fact measurements, but based upon, we're setting the appropriate size of the pod based upon the input configuration of capacity.
Capacity change, basically,
Okay.
And we mutate the pod, basically. We are mutating the deployment.
And by the way, just as an FYI, newer versions of Kubernetes, I don't know which version it starts with or whether it's G or just beta or alpha even, does do in-place vertical scaling of pods. So rather than having to create a new pod, you can bump up the resource requirements or the resource specification for the pod. Eventually, someday in the future, we'll want to support that. All right.
So just one question here. So it's generally a question, since my understanding was what John was saying earlier. So how do user achieve, say, if you want to increase a replica set of a UPF running in a single cluster? Let's not talk about instantiating a new UPF cluster. I'm just talking about an existing single UPF cluster. If they want to increase the number of replicas, how do they do that now?
It's not possible. In R1, we cannot do it.
No, we don't have the framework to do it.
So conceptually, Bala, the idea would be that.
But it's not so hard to change, but we have to do a few changes. But in R1, that was not in scope, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think in scope was changing due to the details weren't, it wasn't specified, because it's going to depend on the network function. So some network functions may say, in order to achieve that capacity, I need more replicas. Some might say, in order to achieve that capacity, I need more CPU, I need more memory. And so those decisions of how to do that will be done either in a kept function or an operator or both, or some combination thereof, right? Based upon those capacity
so to
requirements.
be fair, UPF is the tough one. So in theory, you should be able to scale up the number of AUSF or something like that, and it should be okay because it's hidden behind a service. So that one.
The problem is that like UPF and SMF, they're tightly coupled, so there are sessions established to do so. And you need additional.
Or in general, anything that has secondary interfaces, the IP addresses are very bind at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think probably what it means is, John, probably we may have to rephrase. I think in whatever we presented to the TSC, I don't know what understanding they got, so probably we'll have to reset that in that slide.
Yeah, I don't know if I was that specific, but yeah, we'll have to see. We might have to rephrase it. Yeah. Okay. This looks like it was the same. Yeah. Okay. We got that PR there.
I think Anne was done with that already.
Yeah, well, the PR
at least the PR is out, so it's done because
the PRs are exactly. We need to review it and merge it. And we talked about it. It's there's two issues that represent the same, or that are satisfied by the same PR.
Actually, 4. I stuff everything in there.
Okay. I guess didn't we already? Okay. All right, Stephen. What's happening here?
Well, the doc is out for a while, so I mean that's one.
Right. I think the last I looked at it.
Yeah. So the part of the controller. So now I have to jump to the conventions of the management cluster conventions. So that's in progress right now.
Okay. All right. So can you?
Speaking of that, I have a PR on APIs. So if you guys can look at it and commit it, and if if it looks good, approve it. It would be nice. Because obviously
I will do it today, Stephen.
Yeah.
I will do it today.
Okay, thanks.
Let's just put this one.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, actually, in fact, I have to rebuild this one because the last one has a lot of merge conflicts. Been sitting there for months.
So where does that go? It goes in here?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, the API is in place so that I think Arwins and others asking that the API to be checked in before they would correspondingly do the ESA changes. So if you can get that would be great.
Is there another PR?
There'll be there should be a series of 2 or 3 PRs coming out on different reconcilers.
Are any PRs that relate to this? Can you put them in here so that we can find them? Yeah. Thank you. All right. And then I think I had on this one way back when I had.
Yeah, no, you make a comment on PV instead of PVS, but then right now I'm going with PVS. So then I don't want to ignore your comment, but then I'll just say for R1, I'll still use PVS.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then this one, Tal. Is this dependent on other?
It's related. I mean, it's tied to the one that
dependent on this, right? The API, or is it dependent on the other one as well?
It depends on the API.
All right. Okay, we have, I think Vish was working on something here on the EDE. We talked about this the other day, Vish. You were saying creating a folder or a directory where we could drop EDE tests or something. Any status there?
That is what myself and Victor we discussed initially. Like, we think that the end-to-end test should be in a separate repo, but initially we were saying we'll create the end-to-end in a directory and we'll call it. So like I mentioned, I think with your changes, I guess that you made some changes. There's a pro job already that is running the end-to-end test. We need to, yesterday I was thinking in my head that I need to tell Victor that, or Rado, that we need to change that to call the new script and make sure it gets invoked. So let me do that next week. Yeah, so today we have the end-to-end script running in general from Pro. If you have scenes, you have PRs at least. We just need to make sure that with your changes, I think
which
we have,
EDE script runs. Yeah, I guess if it's right now, if it was depending on, we need to make sure it's using the new
version,
installation, as opposed to the workshop code.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then we need instructions and a place to drop EDE tests to be included in the run. So if I want to write an EDE test, I need to know, do I put a YAML file here? Do I put a bash script here? Like what do I do? Whatever it is, I think we can work with. We just need to know how to do it.
Okay, sorry, I am not sure. I have some background. There's somebody mowing the lawn here. I don't know if you're.
Oh no, we can't hear. I think it seems to be filtered out. Okay. Cool. All right. Define document system and integration test. So this is, I think, I'm not sure what this is. This must have been in the to-do before. I think this is similar. This is kind of, so Ravi brought this up the other day, like we have this sandbox now. We haven't really updated any documentation to reflect the new sandbox or the new process. So I guess that's part of this. Who is this assigned to right now? Anybody? It's assigned to Victor, who's out right now. Does anybody know, is Victor back next week, or should somebody else take this over?
Yeah, I can talk to Rado, maybe. And Victor,
Okay.
he said he'll be out for 2 weeks, right?
Okay, so if he's out for 2 weeks, we definitely need somebody else to take over documenting this, because so I had started this, which is super not, there's not much here. But this should be editable by anybody, or you can certainly ask to make it editable if, but we should kind of, all right. Not much there, but it's more than nothing. Okay. So does anybody want to jump in on this? I mean, I don't want to sign Rado up if he's not here. Is there anybody here who would want to work with, obviously, since we haven't documented it, there's only a few of us who probably have a deep understanding of what's in there. You need to work with us to do it, but it would be a great way to learn. Is there anybody who wants to jump in and work on documenting? Here's what's in the sandbox. Here's the different components, and sort of like, here's the process of once you have a sandbox, how you get workload clusters, what's happening under the hood. Anybody interested in that?
Question, is this due for R1? Yes, right?
So it should probably, that's a good question. Like we need something, some of it would be part of the documentation. So Bala has put together some outlines of certain documentation we need, and some of this would fall into that. I don't know that, yes, probably it is, because not the E2E test integration bed, but assuming that's the same, we're not going to do a completely different thing for the sandbox kick the tires environment, we would need that in that documentation. So, you know, it's fine, like,
Sorry, no cycle.
Yeah.
After this, I'm out till the 13th, the 14th.
Okay. So. As part of the documentation, which I don't know, because they're contributed.
Like the user guide or something, try for user guide.
Yeah. I don't know if it's, I don't know, okay. We'll have to link the issue to the user guide.
I'll one second, I'll send it. Installer deployment 159.
Okay.
I'll put it here, put it in the chat.
It must be in a different repo or something.
Yeah, I'll put this, I put that in the chat, the Zoom chat.
Thank you. Okay. Cool. All right. Is this done now? I mean, I think this is kind of I think we have two issues that kind of like this, and I see this is kind of a epic. All right. I think this is kind of an epic, so I'm just going to skip it here. Okay, so here we have a discussion about, yeah, okay, cool. All right, so that's underway to get that working in that other environment. Yeah, I think we're not going to try and do anything other than kind clusters for workload clusters right now, unless we have, you know, some ample time somehow, which is unlikely. All right, so that's what this one is. We should decide, do we consider this, have we decided, I guess I'll ask the question to Anne and to Liam, have we decided that scope-wise, we're just going to do kind clusters running in a VM, in which case the scope of this shifts to coordinating these two issues and making sure if we say adapt the management cluster to run on an OpenStack VM, we can adapt the workload kind clusters to run on an OpenStack VM in that same environment. Is that what we're deciding?
Yes, as far as I understand. I have other commitment coming up, so I can't work on the Mac, Intel Mac VM.
Okay.
On workload cluster, which I said I would yesterday. But
okay, makes sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. So summarizing the decision for this and number 235. Scope for R1 is GCE VM for management and GCE VM with kind clusters for workload, all-in-one workload, all-in-one VM. Are we saying that's yeah? And then are we talking about? I guess here's where I'm not clear.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
had
so
it-
maybe
I asked Secret to talk on this, okay?
yeah, sorry, maybe apologies for the confusion. But yeah, I'm coming from a project where we're working with big monster Kubernetes clusters, or a single cluster even, so there's no multi-cluster. But yeah, so I think it's clear from maybe Vim's last comment in terms of just a single VM, everything running within a single VM, and modifying the scripts to accommodate that.
So we definitely have that, but we do have so we talked about with the TSC, 2 different deployment modes. One is the demo kick the tires environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about there. And it would be great to be able to run that. Okay, so let's maybe do it this way. Demo environment.
Demo/dev, maybe demo/dev. I don't know.
Kind clusters. Yeah, sure. Demo with kind cluster, single VM with kind clusters. And then we have GCE VM version. We want an OpenStack VM version, and we want a local VM version of that. Then there's the bring your own cluster. So
sorry, John, to stop you there, but could you maybe expand on that? Like, what? Sorry, maybe I'm a little unclear as to what you mean by bring your own cluster in that instance. Just so.
So this is more what I think you were thinking in your discussion of that. So right now, like the ED script spins up a VM and installs everything. And so you have a sort of simulated environment in a box. Mm-hmm. But in reality, like if I were to do this in the real world, I would start with, for example, I'm going to use Google things because they're most familiar to me. I would start with a GKE autopilot cluster.
Yep.
I would just spin one up, and then I would install the Nepio management components on that. Now that's my Nepio management. Now that would not include CAPI. That would not include GT. That would not include probably some other things. It would just include the core Nepio piece, MetalLB, right? Those are all part of our sandbox environment because I don't need those on Google Cloud because I have my own versions of those services. So those aren't really part of Nepio. They're services that Nepio relies upon.
Yeah.
So then what I would do is I would say I want to spin up workload clusters. So in our automated functionality in R1, we only support spinning up workload clusters via CAPI and only kind clusters. So I couldn't automatically spin up any workload clusters in this deployment. Instead, what I would have to do is manually spin up 5 more GKE clusters. Manually, I would have to manually set up or have some automations. We have our own automations for these, but I would have to integrate those. I would have to manually set up repositories for all of those things because the only automation we have for repository setup in Nepio R1 is for Git.
Yeah.
So I would have to set up manually repositories for each of those. And then I would have to manually configure my Git sync or config sync to point to those repositories in each of those environments. Once I did that, then I have a complete Nepio environment and I can do the rest of the stories. I can deploy the workload operator, the Free5GC operator. I can deploy the individual Free5GC components. And if all of my clusters that I've manually set up meet those requirements as far as Multis and all of this, I can also deploy the workloads.
No, that definitely clarifies. Yeah, and I guess so there's no scope. Well, there is scope, but for R1, there's no immediate requirement for a multi-site Nepio deployment, if you like, for want of a better term. as Tal
No
was saying.
automated setup for it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
only manual clusters, repos, and joining workload clusters to Nefio. And then beyond that, so the question here is, we need instructions for how to do this, and we need to test it ideally in more than one circumstance. So even if it's a manual test.
I tried this procedure. Let's say I tried to deduct steps from Ansible scripts today to deploy. I have tons of cluster, right? It's a VMware tons of stuff, so
Right.
management and workload. And it's, well, eventually just like for sake of time, I went to one Ubuntu VM. But if I had such instructions, you know, in some clear way, because Ansible, there are a lot of indirections, right? It's difficult to follow everything. It would be much easier, right, to set up something manually.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and in fact, so that's kind of what this task is to document and even to tease apart and almost reverse engineer some of that Ansible so that we can document, here's what it's doing, right? So it is what this should amount to is, you know, a bunch of manual steps to set up the clusters and then apply some packages. So if you go back to the workshop instructions, I had sort of instructions on how to do this, but it's changed pretty substantially since then. But the piece that's really different in the demo environment setup, there's two categories of things. One is there's a bunch of things that are, we would consider external services that we install and set up in the sandbox environment, Git, MetalLB, Cappy, and then so we need to kind of separate all those things out.
Yeah, that kind of brings me to a question. Is there any, I should probably look for more documentation or more demos around this stuff to learn it better, but in terms of the core elements or the core components, is there somewhere that's defined? You know, so as you said there, you have external, so those, so Cappy, MetalB, okay, that's what you're working on there. Okay.
That's the extent of the documentation. No, I mean, it's scattered everywhere. I mean, there's this, but there's no central place. But basically, these dark green things are things core. That are core, and I'm probably missing some. And then the light green things are things that would like our resource backend, right? In order to do the stuff we want to do, you need that, but it's not necessarily a mandatory piece of Nefio. And these blue things are all like part of Sandbox, but in a cloud environment likely would be served by some other.
Oh well, look, it's the detail is but it's nice to have a picture of what's cool. Yeah,
and then there should be a similar thing for the workload cluster, which has really less in it, but less that's part of the platform, and then more that's part of like the operator and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, cool. All right, so that's all right. Does that capture
So timing wise, then I guess the demo environment gets the priority for the R1.
I think so, especially since it's going to kind of, we can work out and evolve it there, and then you know the doc. But I think we're pretty close to where it kind of works now. So we're probably pretty close to where this can be done. But but timing wise, let's focus on this first. And is this what we want? Like again, there's two decision criteria for which things we list here. First is availability of expertise and resources. That's why it's GCE right now. The second is what our customers would want. So I think OpenStack was also chosen because we have expertise and availability of resources and local VM. But like, I guess the real question is this an adequate selection to go to R1 with for our audience. This is what we know in our community, but is it adequate? Like Tanzu could be in here. We know that too, right? So I want to know what we should do.
Personally, I think given the resources and the expertise, this is adequate. But after R1, maybe in R1++, we should go to the telco and ask them, or the vendors like Vim, and say, what other environments do you typically see being deployed, and then aim for them, aim for those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Because right
okay.
now, I mean, we had talked about OpenShift at one point, but I don't have cycle and Tao's
Yeah,
no longer,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, I guess we can tackle the OpenStack, and the David is looking at the local VM Juno Windows one. So
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we say this? Let's leave this as the intended scope. But if Dennis or Bala from Red Hat or somebody wants to do it in their platforms, I guess Red Hat has an OpenStack platform, so maybe that's sufficient. But like if Dennis wanted to do it in demonstrate it in a VMware environment, like that would be awesome, right? It's, like, we'd love to see that. But,
we work internally on that stuff. We actually go a little bit beyond even that. Like,
okay,
so
fantastic.
Then it's just quick question. Is TCE deprecated? The community edition?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Or you can just download Tanzu and use it like without license for a while.
Ooh. Okay. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you. That was good discussion. I think we talked about this and this both go together with the other topology pieces. Is there anything more to say there? Okay. Bala, we talked yesterday about a skeleton. I mean, you've got an outline here. I haven't had a chance to review this. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah,
anything
probably the
here
first
would
thing
just-
is to make sure if that makes sense, that outline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try to review these two today. And anybody else, please do as well. Sorry, let's write this down. I have too many Post-it notes on my desk.
Are they different colors?
No, they're mostly all this color. I do have some yellow ones. Depends, like the ones from work are yellow, the ones from home are, and they don't mean any, the colors don't mean anything. They're just a mess. All right. Wim, we had a little bit of a discussion about this, I think, on Slack.
Yeah, there's a new topic. I mean, one of the struggles that I have is the following: is that okay? So all of this starts with the PVS, right? Normally,
yeah,
which has a repo selector. I'm assuming because we want to schedule to clusters, right?
So, well, no. So, okay. So, yes, it could have a repo selector, or it can have an object selector based upon Nephew workload cluster objects, which we now have. So you could also do it that way. It probably doesn't.
Are the
matter
workloads? Are the workload cluster? So I think it might matter.
Okay,
John, because what I'm struggling with the repo selector is how can I get access to the repo itself that gets selected. So because, so in other words, I want to know the value that the selector uses, and I want to use that in one of the mutation elements.
Yes. So you can get access to the metadata, but not the spec. And this is because of
no, so I'm talking about the selector of the repository in the PVS, because the thing, can you do that?
Yes. So there's a cell expression in the PV template that the PVS is rendering, assuming that's where you need it. You can access the metadata of the upstream package revision of the destination repository and of the target object, whatever it may be. So the metadata meaning the name, namespace, labels, annotations. I don't allow you to access the spec contents of it because that would basically allow it violate anyway. It's dangerous from a security perspective, and I don't think we need it right now, so I just left it out for simplicity. There's mitigations, but let me find the link here. God, my God. Okay. Here we go. Sorry, it's a long document here.
Are you looking for the template within that?
Yeah.
CWS? Okay.
Yeah, now I found it, but now I don't see a header that I can link to. Okay.
Command F template with a.
See, the question is, what do we do? Either we do selector of repository, because the workload cluster object that you have defined, will it get actuated onto the management cluster?
Okay. Yes, the workload cluster will, when you
CR?
deploy, that will get that gets put onto the management cluster. So it's in the packet, it's in the Nepio workload cluster package, and it as a
Local config is not
config, it's regular
okay.
config.
Not that, okay.
And that's how, because the injection, you have to do that right now because the only way the injection works right now is from the cluster. So in order to inject it in the PVs that is creating, I need it in the cluster. So it gets put in the cluster. So now we've got a catalog. We now have a cluster registry, effectively, a list of all the clusters, workload clusters. Now, right now, it doesn't label them in any way. It doesn't put any of our labels. Like, we might need to do that, but you should be able to then theoretically use that as a source of deployments. But of course, with no labels, it's not.
No, but I can. The name is sufficient right now, right? So the name,
Right.
because the name is the cluster. Because I think we should do everything with cluster name. I think for now.
Yeah. So within the template here, you can do these expressions. So like this.
Yes, and I thought I found the. But so. Okay, you can even get access to repository. Okay, I didn't see it. Okay.
Yeah, the variables defined are up here.
Okay, so 08 package variant. Okay, I'll look at that because that's what I was trying. I was looking at the code actually. And the code is not very obvious to find this, so that's why I was asking the question. So okay, so these are the tags. Okay, repository. Okay, but even with that, I can potentially do it. Okay.
Yeah, these are the ones that are most useful, probably. Yeah, these are kind of almost just for completeness, but
because and then the second question. Let's assume that we have that. I will set somewhere a parameter in package context, I guess, with this data, right?
Don't use package context; it breaks stuff.
Okay,
let's
so
have a
somewhere
discussion offline. We have 5 minutes, so let's.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, if you have time later, that would be great. Yeah, I still have time. Yeah, that's fine. We can do it after.
Yeah, I can talk right after this call. That would be great. Yeah.
And then Stephen, I'll ping you after that. So then, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Then we talked about that. Deploy free 5GC operator on workload cluster using Nepio. So we talked about this. So did you talk to? I see there's Simon's assigned now. So did you and Simon talk about this, or?
Simon reached out. Simon reached out to me.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday. After that, in the second half of the call, Simon wanted to take it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah, Simon and I hadn't had a chance to talk yet.
He reached out to me and asked me if I worked on it. I did not, and I just we don't have yet an image to deploy an operator in a few repositories. So I ask Rada to make sure that Pro builds an image with operator and push it there. And after that,
we can manually build one and push it if you want, just to have something to exercise.
then we have to do that because I don't have rights to push, obviously. So if anybody can do, just go into Free5GC repository, do Docker build, and
yeah, I can
push.
do that. I'll do that right after the call.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, right after I talk to Wham. Build and push Free5GC operator manually, and then we just need but we still need,
I can do it. I'm already set up for it. I'll just do it.
awesome. Thank you. All right, Kyle will do that. All right, I'll
Just use latest stack for the time being, and later on we will add something else.
Absolutely.
So is this going to be deployed to the Free5GC packages?
Gets deployed. Well, the container image gets deployed to the Nephew Hub repo, but yes, this issue is about a package living in Free5GC packages, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, because I've seen that, because this is one of the issues I'm also working on for not exactly this, the operator, but the packages. So I just wanted to make sure, because some of them have not been updated for more than a month. So I'm thinking that is why this task is there. Okay.
This is so after you deploy the workload clusters, you need the operator on all of them. That's this task, to create a package for that, which requires an image to be built. And then the task you're working on is when you want to deploy the actual network functions, you need a package. Yeah. Okay. That I think we're not ready to do yet. Okay, testing the scale out of the SMF. Okay, test scaling. So this is
the same as for UPF, I guess.
Yeah, right now the code for adding additional memory and CPU based on the max number of session and max number of NF connections are already, that code is already in there in the original PR and in the next, that one too. Okay. So hasn't changed.
So we can do this after we can verify this after PRs
get
merge, and then need E test to automate.
Yep.
Awesome. Define scheme for release versioning and release cycle. I saw Bala, you raised this to the TSC. So
yeah, I think.
So there was some more discussion I haven't caught up on. Sounds like 0.1.0. Okay.
No. This is the thing, right? Mentioned. This is the we discussed this in the second half of the meeting yesterday, right? After you left, John, and then that's when a lot of the other things came to the picture. Like, should we call it monotonically, like 1 R1, R2, R3, or with a code name, or 1 R? So we don't know at this point of time. So Tal suggested we should bring it up to the TSC, and that's what I did. And I brought up 2 issues to the TSC, which I had not received any information so far. One is this, and also the other one is the exception to the licensing.
Did you send emails to the TSC mailing list or just do it on Slack? I don't know how active the TSC members are on Slack. I mean, some of them are here.
That's what I was planning to do today as well. They send the email. I took the easy way of doing it on Slack, but I will do the emails as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, this is so I don't know if we have anybody from the team here because it's Friday night in India. Probably we need, okay. I guess we need, I don't know if we have any kind of automated test framework for this. We may just want to define annual I'm gonna ask
CHA.
Chris. And
Okay. Yes, sorry. Okay.
all right. I think this is done, right? Or is this? I guess this should be an E to E test. Maybe we should.
This was when I did this, it was more of manual testing. This is when White.
Oh, it says right there.
Checking in.
Okay.
So I think we should be done. We should say, because with the Daniel's, sorry, Dennis's testing, probably we can say it's done.
I'm going to close it. We'll create separate issues for the automated.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right. Awesome.
John, just one thing. We're Monday's a holiday here, so
Okay.
report on Tuesday and all those workload cluster stuff. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Vish, I'm sorry, I missed your issue here. Do you have any updates?
Well, I've been looking into the package variant and trying to understand that, and also looking into, because that is one of the understandings I need before I go off and try to figure out what needs to be injected, understand the blueprints and stuff. I know back when we did this free 5GC, the last update that I have seen in the packages themselves have been a month ago. So I need to as a next step, go look at those packages, understand, and see. I'll probably have some clarification questions in the issue before I open a PR. So that'll be that's my plan of action. Yeah.
Is closely tied to that package specialization process. So yeah, you definitely want to work with Wim and ISTE and whoever else was involved in that package specialization, all that work that was done a while back. I know it's been done for a while, to make sure that the assumptions that you're making, that they match. So just you may want to join the call Wim and I are about to have, because I think we can.
Yeah, maybe it might be useful, Vish, because this is exactly related to the thing that I'm discussing.
Yeah, unfortunately, I already set up a lunch one-on-one with one of my dad colleagues that I need to go to. I'm late for that. So
shoot. Okay.
Oh my
gosh, we're already 5 minutes over. All right. I should let everybody go. Thank you all so much. And Wim, why don't we just stay on and record it, and then Vish can
Oh, a separate recording is better than actually. That way, this recording can be done, and that'll be a separate one.
All right, then we'll.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well.
Do we stop this and then? Or?
Hello.
Yeah, I think probably stop this. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Wim.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Sandeep from Samsung. I had few doubts, just a few minutes if you can.
Yeah, I just need to finish this thing with John, because we need to close this one ASAP. Because everything is blocked if this doesn't work. So.
All right. Fine. So maybe in some other meetings we can discuss.
Yeah. Or on Monday morning or something like that.
Yeah. Maybe it will take more time for me to discuss this. Yeah. Thank you. See you on Monday.
Cheers.
Bye.
Are we hanging on or are we dropping?
I think we are dropping. I thought he's going to stop recording. That's what I was waiting. So anyway, I think I will close the meeting. Probably it will stop recording automatically, hopefully.
Thanks.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, bye.